You've spent a whole game fighting through spaceship corridors, exploring a new ring world, winning countless battles against an enemy whose colours shine stark against the lush greenery. It has been constant noise, gunfire, quips, and an epic soundtrack that feeds your power fantasy of being humanity's greatest soldier. But then the game goes quiet. After one of the most epic missions in the game, with Assault on the Control Room, you're suddenly thrust into the most alien of locations. A foggy swamp in the dark. Welcome to Sam's Oddities. Millie has her cozy corner, but here we talk about some of my favourite moments, details, minutiae of video games. So grab yourself a tea or a coffee and sit back as we explore together. Today I want to take a look at my favourite mission in Halo Combat Evolved. A mission well known to those who have played before, or anybody familiar with the series. A lot of great media has that moment. The moment it transcends what you thought it was and becomes something more. These are the moments you get told to keep watching for, or playing in this case. Like Walt rebuilding the plate in Breaking Bad, the basement in Attack on Titan, Alicia's letter in Clair Obscur. One thing I've noticed about all these moments is the silence. It's not particularly grand, there's no great bass note that signifies the reveal. We are just fully immersed in the character's world and experience their realization along with them. I've always been a huge fan of allowing the audience to learn alongside the casts. Now, dramatic irony can work, especially in scenes of high tension, but there's an art to finding tension in that unknown. The act of discovery is the tension itself, the dread rising as the fears of the audience are realized. Now, back to our swamp. Without context, it's a pretty ordinary place. A lot of games have a swamp level. They might introduce a poison that affects the player, amphibious gameplay with the way water and earth come together, maybe a new enemy type or two. But swamps are inherently creepy. In my mind, this is because there's just so much life, yet you can't really see it. Swamps reward camouflage perhaps more so than any other biome. There's just so many natural places that offer good hiding spots. Most levels in Halo CE pop you down and bam, there's your enemy, now go kill them. But here there's nothing. Just the sound of cicadas, crickets, and all kinds of alien insect life. There's a lazy rainfall, a natural mask that hides deeper sounds. But there's tiny little whispers that can be heard beneath. Whispers that drone softly before becoming re-enveloped into the atmosphere. The very first thing you're probably going to notice is the downed pelican directly in front of you, shrouded in fog. Throughout the game, the pelican has been this indicator of safety. We often end missions in one and can breathe a sigh of relief as the next cutscene plays, but here our symbol of safety lies dormant and destroyed, slowly becoming claimed by the swamp. There's a fair amount of ammo to pick up here, which is nice. One detail I really like is that when you enter, the sound of the rain changes slightly, so you can hear it bouncing off the metal hull. And if you stand here for a bit, eventually a radio message will start playing. Funnily enough, this message pretty much spoils the entire mission, detailing how Captain Keyes has been captured by an unknown enemy, but most players will probably just walk past, think it's part of the atmosphere, but if you really listen to it, there's actually quite a bit of information about the mission or what you're heading into, which I always thought was a bit of fun, a bit cheeky. From here we do get some combat against some grunts and jackals, but even on the hardest difficulty, they're not much issue. I do like these little lights that shine up the ridge, indicating where to go. I'm not actually sure what their in-universe purpose is. They do look like temporary fixtures, but not placed by the Covenant. There's two here that look up on this down spirit dropship, so either it very conveniently landed here for lighting's sake, or the UNSC set these up as, trail markers or something. Up the next ridge, I love the way these vines hang down from the unseen canopy. Kind of makes them look like eldritch fingers of some kind. It definitely feels like some sort of force is weaving a spiderweb of sorts to trap any poor soul who ventures here. Very Hansel and Gretel, witch's hut in the wood, and, the maze-like nature of the swamp with the trail markers and whatnot. Becoming lost in the woods is such a primal human fear. I mean, there's countless stories and folklore about it, and this mission definitely plays into that on a subconscious level. Speaking of the Witch's Hut, we now see the next stage of this mission. Most Forerunner structures so far have been grand and mind-bending with this, crazy rigid architecture that stretches up into the sky, but here we just have a door. Kind of looks like a mouth in a way, doesn't it? The two eyes and whatnot. The enemies fleeing from it is such an odd visual for sure, but Chief is a brave man, so he'll just ignore that. And suddenly there's no sound. The rainfall fades away and we're engulfed by the structure. It's interesting that the last mission of the game is called the Maw, because this definitely feels more like one, a mouth of some ancient beast that's swallowed us. And now to be digested, in a way. I know a lot of people have already made this observation, but I love the way these defensive shields are facing the wrong way, towards the direction we're heading. It's almost like a warning light saying, don't go this direction, but, we're here to find keys, so on we go. Oh, the first chamber we enter is lovely. There's a few enemies to fight, just jackals and grunts again, but if you look around, we're underground, and yet the structure is still huge, it's gargantuan. It almost looks like a rib cage along the top of the walls here, and in the middle there's this strip of walkway that covers what looks like a pit that just drops into infinite darkness. The pit kind of gives the vibes of a moat in a way, a pre-planned defense carved into the architecture, which I guess if you know what this facility is, it kind of makes sense. Which I do like that little detail. Now we get one of my favourite visuals in the mission, which is the green goo falling from some unseen point in the ceiling. At this stage, the only Covenant blood we know is blue, purple, or orange, but this substance is like something else entirely. Definitely, it helps with that sense that we're trapped in a body whose inner workings are a mystery to us. And right after that, we have the bloody hallway. Blood is such an interesting visual because it leaves the imprint of pain, in a way. When killed quickly, something doesn't necessarily bleed all that much. But, this visual imposes, cruelty, viciousness, something rabid that doesn't consecrate the body in a way most cultures do. Presumably that the Covenant species also value the body. We hear of jackals and brutes eating fallen combatants, but they seem to clean up after themselves in a way. In the psychology of both the Covenant and humanity, as seen in the game so far, we know that this scene is unusual. Speaking of psychology, we finally meet a friendly face. Well, friendly probably isn't the right word for it, because this guy just starts unloading into us. It's very Aliens in the way that we're seeing the deconstruction of the macho marine that has been accompanying us in the game so far. Whatever fears they had weren't shown, because you don't do that in a power fantasy. But here all of a sudden we're faced with this visual of the soldier hunched against the wall, the remnants of the battle around him, mind broken by whatever he's seen. It's always such a wonderful visual. I've always wondered how flammable Forerunner structures are, because I'm not sure what exactly is burning here. It could be flamethrower fuel or something, some sort of fuel of some kind, because I can't see anything that would possibly be burning. Maybe the Flood just have that ability. The visual of a Forerunner structure having been broken with this decimated door is lovely. This whole game, whoever built this ring world has been kind of like godlike. The design's unshakable in architecture, but here, seeing one of their doors bent and blown open kind of removes that divine nature a bit. As we enter and go by this dead marine, some of the first music we've heard finally starts playing, and it's this mournful, funerary piece. We've walked into a graveyard. After a slight jump scare, which is, a little goofy, we find a helmet, and finally we have all our stories answered by the story of Private Jenkins. Usually I'm not a fan of when a game takes control away from the player, the whole, win in the game but lose in the cutscene type deal, but But here we still are the Master Chief, kind of watching helplessly. And throughout the game, a lot of our tasks have been, to aid or rescue the Marines. They rely on us as the player to save them. When we first land in the ring, or we free them from like the Truth and Reconciliation. We're used to being the hero, but here, what's done is done in a way. There's nothing we can do but watch as the Marines in this helmet footage enter the same structure we did. They descend through the same halls and ask the same questions that are probably running through the player's mind. But we've seen the aftermath. We know some grisly fate awaits them, and yet they still display that same, gung-ho attitude that they always have, which has always been such a fun little character trait of the Marines. It's funny that I spoke earlier about the audience knowing more than the characters, and there is a sense of that here, but Chief has almost joined us in the audience, which is like perfect if you want your protagonist to be relatable. We're in the same seat as him, dreading to look upon whatever will appear in the footage.
Real pretty. Friend of yours?
And when our little popcorn friends finally make an appearance, it's almost a little underwhelming. It's like, oh, this scary thing that's been stalking us, little jellyfish things that scurry across the floor. But then, we regain control of Chief to fight them, and the true horror is revealed. Halo isn't shy about its religious themes, and we observed earlier about, the sanctity of the body in many religions and cultures. And to take and use the body is sacrilegious, like evil. So possession and mutilation of the body has always been considered abhorrent in pretty much all of human history. And here we see why the Flood is so terrifying. Beyond being a representation of the biblical Flood, they are, space zombies. The infection forms are kind of akin to facehuggers from Alien, latching on and hijacking the body, changing its form to birth something else. I know when I first played this mission as a kid, I didn't clock that these combat forms were elites, twisted and contorted into something horrific. You can actually see their original head and hoof-like feet, pretty much the only indicator of what they once were in a way. And it's the desperate escape. I'm not sure where all these Flood came from or where they were 10 seconds ago, but they're here now and they're not too keen on letting us leave. It's pretty common for players to get lost in this segment, and that's definitely by design, but you're actually backtracking through where you've came from. You'll notice that you pass through the blood-filled hallway again. Eventually you'll reach this room where you pick up a shotgun and you see this strange electrical apparatus, and I've always loved this thing. Like, what is it? Like a generator to power the facility, some sort of experimentation device, a computer. It has like little lights on the side here. I love how cheeky this bit is. You find an elevator and breathe a sigh of relief, and then you turn it on and it takes you further down. And below there's another oh shit moment, because the Flood start firing at you with weapons. The fact that they've been taken, but some of their intelligence has been retained, kind of makes the concept a lot more terrifying. Their hive mind nature isn't really revealed until Halo 2, but you can kind of infer it here with the way the elites use human weapons and then the human ones using Covenant weapons. One fun detail in this room is the stack of boxes that has the Marines and the Jackals that look like they were kind of fighting together against the Flood. I'm a huge sucker for the trope of dropping animosity to face a larger threat, and it's such a hope-filled moment in such a horrific mission, showing that despite everything, there's always a chance for hostility between humanity and the Covenant to stop in a way. Oh, the relief you feel when you finally get to the elevator and you finally rise to hear Fohammer's voice again. Woo! And then the Marines you find, you're not alone anymore. It's wonderful.
There's a large tower a few hundred meters from your current position. Find a way above the fog and foliage canopy and I can move in and pick you up.
And now we have a choice. We could hunker down in this structure, out of the rain, maybe wait for someone to come help us. Or we could be brave and make a push for the tower Fohammer mentions. And yeah, we're done being scared. We're the fucking Master Chief, so the creepy atmosphere of the swamp is almost decimated as we push through. Solid drum beat beginning to echo through the trees as we kind of reclaim that power fantasy a bit. As terrifying as the Flood are, they can't stop a solid OST.
I'm getting clear! Good one! My fault. Watch your fire!
And and then we meet this little ball, and we're off to the next mission. Which, if you know what you know, the next mission isn't as good as this one, but you know, it's got its moments. Yeah, thanks for watching. I just wanted to take a moment to, you know, talk about this mission, which I just think elevates the game so much. I mean, it's a bit of a cliche to say it's your favorite, but there's a reason it's so highly regarded, you know? I've got quite a few moments and details in games I'd love to talk about, so, you know, stay tuned for more oddities. The final episode of Mass Effect 2 should be out soon, and then I'll be editing our Mass Effect 3 playthrough together. We're currently streaming Claire Obscure over on Twitch, so give us a follow there. And if you're just looking for a channel where we can just chill, have fun, and talk about things we like, then subscribe here. We're both keen to put out a lot more content this year, so we have a lot planned and a lot in the pipeline, so hopefully we'll see you here again soon. Cheers.